Hello, and welcome to another episode of Health Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen, and we have a great episode for all of you today. You may know, Anthony, it's Saturday, not Monday. I know, we're going live. So if you're listening to this on a recording when it comes out Monday on the general podcast, please let me know how you enjoyed this. If you're listening live right now, and if you chime on in, I am going to engage the audience because this is just going to be one of those topics that I'm so passionate about. I was like, let's come out and do this live and let's see how everyone else feels. So how did it all start? Yesterday at the gym, talking to one of my staff members there, Devon, and we're talking about business stuff, and it generally just leads into this conversation of grit. And we're trying to figure out if it's something that's teachable. Like, how do you explain to somebody, especially in the fitness component, the capacity? So how do you explain to someone that grit is a long process, something you really have to push through? And if you look at this from strictly working out and strictly fitness, we can say in the course of 1 year, if you come to the gym 4 hours every single week, that's 52 weeks in a year times 4, that's 216 hours you have to commit in order to really see true change. If you come to the gym once, you come to the gym twice, you're not going to see change. So therefore, one can come to the conclusion that through grit and perseverance, constantly coming and constantly getting myself to the gym, I'm able to see those long-term results that I wouldn't see if I didn't have the capacity to achieve any level of grit, right? So that's kind of the surface level issue that it came up. And then it had me thinking, and I mean, I was up all night thinking about this and all day today. Is grit teachable? Is it something we can give on to other people? So before we get into that, we got to determine and define what is grit. When you just look at the definition of grit, obviously besides small particles, it's courage and resolve or strength of character. More importantly, it's passion and perseverance toward a typical goal that one may have. We look at people throughout life, and I mean, fitness is obviously a general example, but you see it everywhere. Business owners. What sane person is going to leave $100,000 a year job to take their entire life savings to go into opening and starting their own business, no matter what the industry may be, not make any money with just the chance that they become the top 5% of businesses in order to make a good stream of revenue, right? That's great. I think one of the coolest examples of it, and I think what everyone really thinks of when they think of it, and a little shout out to Harmozy if you're listening to this, Rocky. Everyone's seen the movie Rocky, or if you haven't, Sylvester Stallone, he's getting trained and he just gets beat up over and over and over again, but he keeps on standing up, he keeps on pushing forward. You see a cutscene of him training, that cutscene lasts 5 minutes. Hops into the ring, he gets beat over and over and over and over and over and over again, but keeps pushing through. He ultimately loses the fight at the end of the movie, but it shows that through grit and through strength and through perseverance, he was able to go through it and get in the ring to the championship fight and make it all the way to the last round, even though he was the one that was supposed to be knocked out, not even in the finals. He was a no-name fighter going against the best of the best. That shows grit. So can grit be taught? And I know I asked this question on Facebook, and a lot of people had a lot of different answers. And I think I came to the conclusion, yes and no. And I'm not trying to give a cop-out of just going both sides here, but let me explain. I think grit is not an overall trait. I think it's a passion and perseverance in a specific avenue. And what I mean by that is I have more grit than others when it comes to fitness. I have more grit than others when it comes to owning a business. I do not have more grit than others when it comes to learning the piano. I do not have more grit than others when it comes to typing or painting. Those different categories are things that I don't have passion for. So I really truly believe in order to define grit, in order to say someone inherently has grit, they need to have passion. If you don't have passion towards something, you're never going to go ahead and push through hard times and wanting to keep moving forward. Because ultimately, the things that are the most rewarding and the things that give back the most don't come overnight. They don't You don't just wake up and all of a sudden I did an hour's worth of hard work and I'm there. Well, but go back to the gym example. If you really want to see change in the gym, you need to do 216 hours over the course of a year just to start seeing changes. You want to take that to an athlete level. We can go now times that by 10 over the course of 10 years that it took for somebody to go from, let's say, that junior high school level all the way up to professionally. So now we're 2,160 hours at a minimum that an athlete's putting in to potentially make it to the top 1% of their class. But let's take it a step further. If we stick to just an athlete example, their passion is that sport, right? You have to be passionate in a specific sport you're going towards in order to do this kind of what some people see as pure just insanity. And now it's not just the gym time. You take the gym time and you take the time you're practicing at your sport. So if your gym time, just for easy math, is 3,000 hours over 10 years, now you take your sport time is another 3,000 hours over 10 years. So now you're committing 6,000 hours over the course of 10 years to get to the next level. But everybody's doing that. So what else are you doing? Well, simply, I can tell you from experience, athletes are very, very regimented in everything in their lives. When you get to the professional level, you need to have 100% output all the time. So things as simple as sleep are scheduled. You go to bed at the same time, you sleep the same amount of hours, like 7, 8 hours, whatever your body is meant to be at, and you wake up at the same time every day for the 10 years. There's no cheat days. There's no, I went to McDonald's and had 5 burgers. You know why? Because your competition's not doing that. You want to be 1% better than everybody else, you have to do the 1% extra that no one else is doing. There's no going out with friends drinking on a Saturday night. Alcohol is just going to kill you and set you back. There's nothing that you do in your day-to-day that's not timed, tracked, and followed up on. You have to add in all these extra components. So now it's 24 hours a day over the course of 10 years that's being tracked for this one individual throughout their lives. That's hard. You know how hard it is to tell somebody, hey, I don't want to go out tonight. I have to get ready to go play baseball. Man, you just played baseball for 6 hours today. I don't understand. Why do you have to go back? No, I need to be better. And people don't understand, or maybe don't want to understand, how much passion and how hard it is to get to a professional level. And it's not just innate. Maybe you have slightly better skill on certain stages, but usually the ones that are the best skills don't practice the most, and therefore actually don't end up even becoming the athletes overall, don't make it to the professional level. It's really the ones that are just a step below that spend every second of every day working and building themselves forward to get to that professional level. So we can ultimately say that passion and hard work are 2 huge components of grit. Great. So now, well, there's a theory of practice, and I'm not talking about the kind of practice that you just wake up and go do something. I'm talking about non-distracted, totally in practice. Like deliberate practice is what they would consider. I forgot the psychologist who did it up, but deliberate practice was the number one reason people succeeded in things. So for an athlete point of view, it's not just showing up to the practice, it's being mentally 100% in. Because if you're not mentally at 100% in, you're only going to get a percentage of that practice back. So if you don't have deliberate practice, then you're never going to be able to achieve greatness. Great. What's another component of grit? Getting through hard times. And this is the one I want to stick on for a little bit. Seeing a brighter end. And this is where I think it's situational. And this is why I said yes and no in the beginning. So everyone has a point of something that they're passionate about, whether it's a life or death scenario, and has a reward. And what do I mean by that? There was a study done with a rat, and this rat had its tail pulled up to a tension board. And the scientist put a piece of cheese in front of the rat just out of reach, and wanted to see how hard that rat pulled towards that piece of cheese. Not significant, gave up after a little bit. Cool. Then the scientist took that rat and took cat pheromones and sprayed it and acted like that cat was coming from behind this rat. They were wafting it in from behind. That cat pulled 6 to 10 times harder with that cat pheromone, with that fear to being pushed forward. Interesting. Now they put them together. They took the cheese and they took the cat pheromones and did both at the same time. That was the most significant change in pressure. And that's when that rat pulled the hardest. So let's compare that to us as individuals. There needs to be a fear component, something that's pushing you forward, something that's constantly a driver hitting you from behind, as well as the opportunity of reward. Let's relate this to business because it's the easiest example for a lot of people. The reward of a business is whatever capacity, whether it's setting a legacy for yourself or making a lot of money. There is some kind of reward set with owning a business. That's the rewards aspect. The fear aspect is you lose it all. So maybe this is why that business owner is working 12, 13, 14-hour days and isn't as tired as the person who works a 9 to 5, 8-hour days. That person that's comfortable getting that job, making the money, it's great and all, but that's why they don't understand why the business owner has to change everything in their life in order to achieve something that they think possible. This is where the grit comes in, of having the passion of pushing forward and not understanding why this person is putting so much work into it. So relating it back to deliberate practice, you're deliberately practicing different things when it comes to owning a business. I need to know different operations. I need to know sales. I need to know marketing. But I can't be distracted learning these things. I need to learn how to do these things. Otherwise, it's over. This is why it's so much easier for somebody that is pushing forward to continue. Great, your business is failing. It happens all the time to everybody. There's always highs and lows of businesses. What gets you to push forward? Well, if you fail, it's over. There's some extenuating circumstances. Wow, I just wasted all that time. Wow, I really don't want to be disappointed to my family. Wow, I really don't want to be disappointed to my wife. There's all that fear built up behind it. But there's still that reward. If I gave up today, what if I was going to hit tomorrow? I'm there. I feel like I'm there. I know I'm so close. How much further do I have to do to get there? Let's go to the gym example. I come to the gym. People don't come to the gym just because they want to lose weight. Let me just break that fallacy right here. They want to come to the gym because there's some reason they want to lose that weight. There's some emotional reason attached to them actually saying, hey, I need to show up. Maybe it was news from the doctor. Maybe it was something they heard from friends. Maybe it was something they heard from their significant other. There's that emotional reason of fear of failure and not wanting to be in the same situation they were before that gets into the gym. What's the reward? The reward is that fear is going to dissipate, that outside noise is going to disappear. They're going to look better. They're going to feel better. They're going to live longer. There's a lot of rewards that keep people coming back into the gym. Interestingly enough, there's different levels of this, right? You take both examples, the business owner and the fitness example. There's those that haphazardly go through it, and there's those that have such strong fear go even through more. Like the ones that have the biggest why as you could say, this is my why, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, are the ones that tend to have the greatest amount of grit and greatest amount of output when they're working towards something. So if you're getting beat up, bullied, and ridiculed for being fat and overweight, and you start working out, that's a huge stimulant behind you, pushing you to go forward. That's bigger than somebody saying, I think it's time I lost weight, to look in the mirror. The person that comes to the gym, even if they come the same amount of time and the same amount of hours a day, that is getting bullied and ridiculed and really can't be in that bad situation any much longer, and knows they need to fix something about their lives, those are the ones that are going to put a lot more output and have deliberate practice. Remember, we went back to deliberate practice in the gym, and therefore get greater results in the long term, and really have the true passion and purpose to push forward and fix everything else along their outside life. Anthony, you still haven't answered the question. Is grit teachable? Simple. Is it teachable? If John doesn't have that stimulus to go through, doesn't have that stimulus to go further, he doesn't have that grit to continue, he just wants to give up and move on to the next thing, move on to the next fad diet, move on to the next new fitness concept that came out. He doesn't have that passion to continue and stick to that one thing and really try and give it his all. How do you teach somebody that? I think the answer is the why is not big enough. The fear stimulus is not big enough. The reward stimulus isn't big enough. They don't care or pretend not to care that it's there. I think the fact is grit teachable depends on how big that stimulus is. How big is that push to move forward? How big is that reward for that person to keep pushing forward and keep continuing down a different path? That's the answer. It's situational based upon that person's needs at that given time. Let's give personal examples. Going back to middle school days for me, the stimulant of negativity, of being the same individual I was back in the day, being shy, being nervous around people, like not taking care of myself and just being depressed, got to the point I couldn't bear it anymore. There was no other option. And the other option was not be alive, but that wasn't an option in my head. So what is the other option? The other option is to change. I have to change. I have to bear down and grit and push the grit forward to become that different person. Was it easy? Hell no. It was the hardest thing to date I've ever done in my life. I have to change my personality. I have to change every inch of who I am, become a different person to chase a reward of what I saw as a better solution. That's hard. There was tons of ups and downs. There was tons of times I questioned making this right decision. It wasn't as much as I make it seem as, it was an overnight thing and I changed. It was repetition over and over and over again, deliberate practice of switching my personality up to really become a different person to chase that reward, because I couldn't go back to where I was. I couldn't. That was it. That was where I was left. I wasn't allowed to go back to that situation. I had to move forward. So I learned through that what grit is. I learned that I need to continually push forward. Now, I've done other things in my life that I haven't had any grit towards because I didn't have the passion for it. Go to injury. Stimulus. The stimulant, me getting hurt, me being bedridden, me being stuck. I could no longer be that person. I could no longer say my life is over. I already knew that wasn't an option. I already knew in 7th grade. I can't be that person anymore. So now I need to change. I need to push through. Was it hard? Was it easy? Hell no. It's been 13 freaking years and it's still hard. But it gets better and better and better. And that reward is something I never want to lose. I'm going to keep chasing and keep chasing and keep chasing and keep pushing through because there is no other option to go back. That grit of 5 days a week, over 13 years working out, that's a lot of hours. Vacations, holidays, doesn't matter. I'm working out. I don't have another choice. There is no other option for me. That's it. There's no going back. There's grit. That's how I'm pushing forward. Relate this to owning a business. I have the money. I don't want to be where I was. I felt like a total loser being like, okay, what do I got going on in my life? I got Anthony figured out, but I haven't figured out Anthony's financials, Anthony's reason. I fixed myself. Now, how do I create something? Let's open a gym. Great. Hop in. How did you work 4:30 in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week? There was no other option to go back. I couldn't bear to look into my parents' face and say, oh, I failed. I don't want that. I don't want to go to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and say, I failed. Look at me. How does that make me feel? There's no option of going back. I knew I had to push forward. Our gyms got closed in 2020. It was, you can give up. 25% of gym owners did give up. They closed permanently for good. It would have been okay. At that point, I was told a lot. I understand if you close. I understand if you just call it quits. We won't hold it against you. That wasn't an option because I was holding it against myself, and I would show myself that that was it. It was over, and I didn't want it to be over. I knew the reward, the purpose of me doing this outwent everything. It meant everything to me. I wanted to help millions of people. And if I can't push through this hard scenario yet again and push through this, I can't help a million people. I can't. I don't know any other way of doing it. I knew this is the way I knew how to do it. Through fitness, I can help a million people go forward. I can help show a million people there's another way. So I need to continue because that was the reward to me to help them. So I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and it's working. But it took tons of ups and downs. It wasn't easy. People look at me and go, oh, you must have an innate ability to sit there and own a business. It's so easy for you. Or look, Boss Man's here and showed up. You don't know the hours I put in. You don't know the amount of work I put in. You don't know how many times I wanted to give up. How many times I sat there and said, this is it. This is the end. I don't know how much longer I can go through. But I had to continue. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And eventually, that worked and is working. So there's grit. Now, this is situational, right? There's 3 scenarios of when I learned it from a young age to be able to apply this through. And I'm showing you how big the stimulator is behind and how big the reward is ahead. But how do you show others? How do you teach somebody else? Hey, this is worth doing because of this. Well, I think the reasoning is the why needs to be big enough and the reward needs to be big enough. So how do I fix the why? Let's start with the why. Why are you here? Why are you a personal trainer? Why are you a podcast host? Why do you work at IKEA? Wherever. It doesn't matter. Why are you doing what you are doing? How big is that stimulant to push you forward? How can we make it bigger? I think a lot of people need to be put in a situation, and not deliberately and not by any ill intent, but get in a situation where there's really no other option. And I mean that sincerely. Like, you need to be so stressed out, like you can't, like this is it. There's no going there. I make decisions strictly because there's no backwards. If I take a step back, I'm falling off a cliff. Like, that's it. That's how I see the stimulus. That's the why. It's there. It's big. It's a giant lion attacking me. Run kind of scenarios. So you have to make people uncomfortable. Maybe the way to teach grit is to teach people to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Maybe that's what makes it teachable. Look, if you're comfortable, you're never going to learn grit. Take it a step further. This is by far, if you're going to learn anything from anything I've said over the course of the 4 years of doing this, this is the thing I want you to learn. And this is what personally, what I think defines and teaches people what grit is, the difference between stubbornness and grit, because that's also an important relation. I do not think they're the same no matter what people say. What's the difference? The difference is self-reflection. Looking in the mirror and not having a victim mindset. The second you give somebody else power over you by saying, my life is the way it is because of that, no matter what that is, you lose. The game is over. Your grit, gone. Your passion, gone. Change, gone. None of it's happening. I don't care. It's just not happening. I'm going to give you a life lesson. Everything is your fault. Everything that happens in your life is internally your fault. I take this with me everywhere I go, and it has been the number one thing that's changed my life. Explain. I'm fighting with my wife. Let's just use it as an example. We're having an argument. I don't want to say fighting, we're just having a disagreement or an argument. What happens in an argument? Someone says something, disagrees with somebody, voices start elevating. It blows up. No one ever achieves anything positive out of this. What if I blamed myself? What did I do wrong? It doesn't matter if situationally what triggered the argument was my fault, indirectly or not. How I reacted is 100% my fault. What could I have done differently? You know, maybe the argument would have been so bad if I didn't raise my voice. Maybe the argument would have been so bad if I spent more time actively listening to what my wife was saying. Maybe the argument would have been so bad if I watched my nonverbal cues. Where were my hands? How was I sitting? How was I standing? How did she perceive me through her eyes? A lot of feedback is done non-verbally. Would the argument been different if I thought a different way? Meaning, maybe I thought A was wrong, but really, I see how B can influence A. Different way of thought. Maybe the argument would have been so bad if I understood my wife better. There's 5 good ones. Now, if I fixed all of those myself, if I controlled myself, would that argument wouldn't even escalated? Would even happen in the first place? I don't think so. How many times recently in my own personal life has I applied this principle and the fights just disappeared? Often. Because I'm not perfect. Nobody is. Nobody's perfect. And I know that. And if I can self-reflect and relate this into grit, which in this example is marriage, there's no divorce in my head. You don't marry somebody with ever the intention of divorcing them. The reward is lifelong happiness with the person that is there to you till the day you die, till death do you part. The perseverance, the grit, is going through those highs and lows. Now, highs are easy to get through. Lows are hard to get through. And that's where the grit of a relationship comes in. Stubbornness is ignoring all of those things I just said. Ignoring how you were reacting in a conversation. Ignoring how your wife feels in a certain situation and blaming everybody else around you, and you think whatever I did is right. That's stubbornness. That is not healthy. Even if you don't believe in divorce and you're trying to fight through, but you're being stubborn, that's going to have a negative output. That's where things go really array and you really see people that are unhappy. That's not the reward you were shooting for of lifelong happiness. Grit is taking that, but blaming yourself, or self-reflecting as a better word for it, and understanding that if I can take every situation and fix myself, then ultimately I'm on the path to that reward to have lifelong happiness inside a marriage. Relate this to your job. Why do I have this job? People's money, people's well-being, it's benefits, it's the type of job. Some people, like fitness, for example, is good at people get into it not for the money, because they love helping people. That's their why. They get to help people all day. It's fabulous. Reward, I get to help millions of people. I get to make money helping people. I get to show up to work every day happy. The grit. Is work easy? No. It is developing programs for every single client. And we get hundreds of clients. And we do about 1,500 sessions a month. So 1,500 times a month, you have to reprogram and rechange things. Is that easy? No, that's hard. Could I do the easy way? Could I give you a cookie cutter workout? Meaning I'm just kind of making things up as I go along. Could I just not care what you did last time and just put you through some workout, just to say you showed up? Or could I take the time, the hard part, and push through this shitty part of the job? And I mean shitty, not like, oh, it's a horrible thing, but some people, it's the toughest part, I would say. And make every client individual to make sure they achieve greatness. That's hard for that trainer. It's hard for that manager, that owner, anyone in that fitness path or any path. That's tough. But that's the self-reflection. If I do half-ass and I push through, the reward's going to be half-ass. I'm not going to get that promotion. I'm not going to stay in that job. I'm not going to hold my manager position. I'm not going to truly help a million people. I'm not. I chose the easy path inside my job. I am not going to get these rewards. If I spend days and hours fixing and changing and editing and updating and making sure every single person gets exactly what they came in for, every minute is accounted for, those clients are going to get results. They're going to get results. They're going to feel better. You've helped a million people. They're getting better. Your manager's going to notice you're getting a promotion. They're getting better. They're telling their friends you're getting more people in the gym. There's the win. There it is. It started with the self-reflection. It's there. That is the ultimate caveat of grit. By far, is the self-reflection component and blaming yourself for every single thing you do in your life. It is your fault. I'm going to read it again. It is your fault. And the second you take blame for things is the second you can fix them. You can fix how you react. You can fix yourself changing. There's so many things in your life that you can change. Let's go back to 7th grade Anthony. I was the one getting bullied. I was the one getting beat up. I was the one. I could play victim. A lot of people do here. A lot of people. It's that kid's fault for beating me up. It's the school system's fault. It's the government's fault. It's the way they were raised. It's not me. What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? What did I do to get all of this? My teachers, my counselors, my therapists, everyone's telling me it's their fault. It's their fault. It's not my fault. I'm a good person. You've never changed. You've never pushed forward. You've never achieved. Now you're stuck in that victim mindset for the rest of your life, and you're never going to achieve anything based upon everything we just spoke about. You're never going to be able to look in the mirror and say it is your fault. You know what? It is your fault. It is your fault. You could act, you can respond differently. You can act differently. You can change the scenarios you're in. You can change those people. Have you ever had a conversation with them? No. Why? There are things you could do in that situation that are your fault, and stop blaming others. It is entirely your fault. So change it and move forward. Everything is your fault. Everything. And this is the hardest thing a lot of people are hearing. And I know I'm kidding myself a lot, but it is. We need to drive it home. So is grit teachable? Yes. But it is only teachable with the understanding that you need to have the capability of reflecting into yourself and reflecting and understanding that you need to be the one that's changed to push forward. You need to have passion. If you don't have passion for something, you're never, ever, 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 ever going to have the grit to push forward. You need to have some sense of perseverance. You need to know that when you get through, it's going to be okay, or the ability to get through. This is going to build, and doing all these things over and over and over and over and over again is going to help. You need to have deliberate practice. We've said this earlier. You need to deliberately try to be better, not half-ass, deliberate. It's those times that 3 hours goes by and you're like, oh my God, I just learned one sentence. Like, I didn't even know my phone went off 400 times. I didn't know that my dog was barking. I was so into that. You're deliberately practicing. They're hard to get through, but you're pushing through. You do that, you can teach grit. If you feel like you're that kind of person that doesn't know how to put themselves in a situation where they feel like they have to put forward, start small. Spartan races or things, or half marathons. Things if I said right now, go run. Anthony, it don't work out. I don't care, go. That's how you're going to build it. But you can't quit. You have to make it to the end. You want to start building grit? There's a new place to start. You can't quit. There is no quitting. I've never trained. I can't move. I blew up my knee. Doesn't matter. You're finishing this. You're making it through. That little push. This is why I do these races. I'm not trained. I'm not these athletes that's going through and like, that ain't me. But I'm going to work my ass off to make sure I get through. And I am not quitting. I'm not being that person that's going to go home back to all my clients. Your trainer quit. I didn't make it through. I'm not doing that. I'm signing up for things. I'm signing myself up for things that are constantly showing that I had the passion, the perseverance, and the capability of achieving it. I started small. You can start small. Just start small and do something now. Do something you don't think you can do that you know you need to do. Make sure that reward is great. Make sure that the stimulant behind you is great. Whatever that negativity behind you is, a capability of pushing you forward. You start small with something that you don't think you could do, and you accomplish it, you're going to start compounding on that grit, and it's going to compound quickly. And you're going to learn it and reinforce that cycle. That cycle is going to constantly reinforce itself, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Before you know it, you're doing things you never even thought possible. And you're just looking at yourself one day and going, shit, I'm going to go spend $500,000, start a business with no money into it, I know nothing about the industry, but I know I need to do this because my passion is so great towards this. I know this is where I need to be. I'm going to quit my job. I'm doing it. I'm going by. And you're going to get into that situation. It's going to freaking suck. And it's going to suck for a long time. It's going to suck for not days, not weeks, but years and years. And you're going to question yourself every single day, why did I do this? But then you're going to think back to that time. You said, I built enough grit. I built enough passion. I know I can do this. And you're going to keep pushing forward. And eventually, it's going to click. And eventually, you're going to get to where you need to go. Leaving it there. Let me know what you guys thought. Thank you for those that did watch this live. I love this topic. I think this is something that everyone needs to hear. I can't stress that enough. So please go ahead if you're listening, like, comment, share. Let's get the word out. We need to stop living in a victim mentality. It is not creating those with enough grit. It is not creating those with enough passion. It is not creating those with enough perseverance. And it is especially not helping with self-reflection. Let's change lives. Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of Health Fitness Redefined. Don't forget, fitness is medicine. Until next time.